the Gemara. Good morning, Rebbe Shmuel. In Mesechta Megillah, let me just share the screen. Make sure I shared on the same page. On Daf Ches and Aleph 28a, we have asked different Amarayim, Tanoim, what did you do to merit to live so long? And we just had Rabbi Shua ben Karcha, who answered Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, that I never looked at the face of a Rasha, an evildoer, one who is wantonly goes against the Torah. We brought several reasons for such a type of conduct, and we brought several proofs of it, whether it was from Elisha, who refused to look at the face of a wicked king, or from Yitzchak, who looked at the face of his son Esav. B'shas b'tirasa. Now, when Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha was passing away, Amar Lai, so Rabbi Akiva came to his teacher, and he told him, Rabbi, my master, my teacher, Baracheni, please give me a blessing. Amar Lai, so Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha, the man who lived a long life, blessed Rabbi Akiva. Yiratzen shetagia lechatzi yamai. May you live as long as half of my years. Meaning, say he lived 120 years, you should live half as long as me. Amar Lai, ulukulu Lai. So Rabbi Akiva right away asked him back, why don't you give me a blessing? I should live just as long as you, who lived a long life. Why only half of my lifespan? Amar Lai, he told him back, Habayim acharecha behema yiru. Will those who come after you, meaning your children, should they be shepherds? Should they be tending cattle? Meaning, it's not good for you to live such a long life. The famous line is one of the hardest things about living so long is that you don't have any friends. The Rebbe Yehuda Chitrik, who lived to be 106 years old, he was the oldest chassid. He wrote several svarim. He had a very good memory. He wrote down many of the stories that he heard, and he published them. But he said after he turned 100, people started talking quieter, and they started printing the svarim, the books, smaller. So he told them it's not so long always to live a good life, but not because of any health issues that come up, but because of a different reason. He says, you are a leader. He told Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, and as a matter of fact, he's called Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, Rabbi Yehuda the leader. If you will live a long life like me, so then your sons will already be very old when you pass away, and your entire life, your children will not take over your position of being the Nasi, of being the leader. And their entire life, they're going to be regular citizens. And therefore, if you live so long, it will be detrimental to your children. So if you want it to be good for your children, better you should pass away young, in order that your children should inherit the position while they're young and have the position of many years. Marsha asks a question, what type of blessing is that? He's telling him, I don't want you to live so long in order that your children should inherit your greatness and be leaders like you for a long time, not just for a short time. Let him give a bracha, a blessing to his descendants as well. Let them live a long life. So you could say that you can only give a bracha, a blessing, to what's in front of you. You can't give a blessing to someone who's not in front of you. But at any rate, it's a question that's asked of the Marsha asks. He doesn't really give an answer for it. But it's very special. It's very important. You can see what it means to have Nachas, to have pleasure from your children. And the greatest Nachas from your children is if your children excel and your children become a nasi in your place, become a leader in your place. He says, a person is jealous of anyone else who does the same thing as them. So if someone else comes and does the same accomplishments as them, they're upset or they're not so happy about it, except if it's a student or if it's their child. When they excel, it's considered to be a very big nachas. So therefore, the bracha he gave him was that you should live to a half as long as me in order that your children should live, should be a nasi for a long time. How long did Yeshua ben Karcha live? We're not exactly sure. It says about Rebbe Hanasi, I think he lived to be 120 years old, if I remember. So however long he lived, it was, he gave him a bracha not to live as long just in order to have nachas from your children. Continuing in this vein, not to look at a rasha, at a evildoer, and in addition to that, not to look at a oived avodah zara, someone who serves idols. So says the Gemara, Shalom Aleichem, Reb Pinchas, Mr. Nedich, B'shas Petirasai, Avua bar Ihi, Uminyamin bar Ihi, Avua bar Ihi and Minyamin bar Ihi both spoke about this topic, not to look at a rasha, not to look at a evildoer, or an oived avodah zara, somebody who serves idols. And they said, Chad Amar, one of them says, Teisi li de lo yistakalti begoy. I will receive a reward in the world to come because I never looked or gazed, meaning I saw, but I never gazed at a wicked goy, a wicked Gentile. Now, of course, I mean, you don't do a mitzvah to receive a reward. Basically, I'm going to receive reward. I deserve a blessing because I never looked at a guy, at a non-Jew who's a Russia. That's for sure. But part of the idea of receiving a reward is that others, not that he needs a reward, but that others should see and want to emulate what he does. And so, basically, could also mean, give me a bracha, Hashem, give me a blessing that I should be successful in continuing what I've been doing until now. Because one who tries to do a mitzvah, Hashem helps him. And so he's asking Hashem a bracha, please bless me further, that because this is the one thing that I've done, I've never looked at a non-Jew who is a Rasha. Chad Amar, at least some say just they take out the word Rasha, and just put in the word kusi. Chad Amar, and one of them says, Teisi the levadi shutvis v'hadigai. I've never made a partnership with a wicked Gentile. That means an oived avodah zara, someone who serves idols. So I do not have any association with a wicked person. Might have X'd it out. Let's go back to the Gemara. There's a Gemara Mesechta Sanhedrin, Daf Samach Gimel. Just bring it up. Which says, yes, we had it on the screen, but I X'd it out. Let's go like this. Mesechta Sanhedrin says you're not allowed to mention idols, you're not allowed to look at idols, you're not allowed to use it, to meet me next to this place, that place. We know people will not even say the names of as Petersburg, or say just Peterburg. And it says Asr la'adam, where is it? Something like this. Partner. Here. He says you're not allowed to. One of the prohibitions of idol worship is la yigron lachedim sheyidru b'shmai. It is forbidden to cause others, Gentiles, to vow in the name of an idol or to swear in the name of an idol. And it's a Messiah Lavia de Shmuel. It's a support to the opinion of the father of Shmuel, which says a person is forbidden to enter into a partnership with a non-Jew, because you might be obligated to go to court, and then the non-Jew will have to swear in court to the Jew, and he's going to swear in the name of his idol. And Torah says you're not allowed to let the name of an idol be heard out of your mouth, which includes causing someone who's not Jewish to swear in the name of their idol or to mention it. So the Tosfos over here asks, we already have a prohibition, a blanket prohibition from the father of Shmuel not to make a partnership with a non-Jew who's going to swear in the name of an idol. So what is so unique about these two people, about Avua bar Iyam and Yam bar Ihi, which says one of them, I never made a partnership with a non-Jew? What is so unique about that? You already have a prohibition. So Tosfos gives an answer like this. He says, even if there was a condition made in this partnership that they will never have to go to court or will never make the other one swear, or one will always give in to the other. So even if there's a possibility that it won't come to a possibility of making an oath or swearing in court or anything like that, still he would never bring himself to he would never have a partnership even with such a setup. Because then there would be no prohibition at all for them to make a oath. Why then would he not make a partnership with a non-Jew? The Rashba explains this is he shouldn't learn from his ways. People are very affected by the place where they live. Look at the difference of Ashkenazi cuisine and Sephardi cuisine. And people are very affected according to their environment. So he wanted to spend his time. He didn't want to be affected by his non-Jewish partner, so he only made a partnership with a Jew. Or even in a situation where it's not common, where the courts would not make people swear in the name of their idols, in the name of their idol of their worship, he still would not make a partnership with them. Or it was a midas chassidus, he just wanted to have an extra level of stringency. So it wasn't really usher, wasn't really prohibited, but it was more of an extra level of stringency that he took upon himself. The halacha, it says, it's brought in Shulchan Aruch, the Magen Avram, the person should be careful not to make a partnership with someone who is non-Jewish, because he might come to swear. However, the Ramah, who was a contemporary about 450 years ago, the Ramah, he writes in halacha that nowadays, there are many people which are more lenient with this because it's not common in courts to make people swear in the name of any idol. And not just that, even someone wants to take office, you could do it on a Bible, you could do it on something else even today. And they mention God. So, many courts will make them swear in the name of Hashem, in the name of God, and not necessarily when they have in mind Hashem, it could be they're having in mind Hashem who made the heavens and earth. They're having in mind a second power. It's not such an isser. So halachically, there is place to be lenient. And if a question like this ever comes up, of course, the best thing is to ask Rav. But it's a midas chassidus, of course, to always try doing that, deal with as much as possible. It's very interesting. There was a certain family in France. Last name I think was Mizrahi, and they had many stories with the Rebbe. They're a very, very wealthy family. Many miracles with and one of the times the Rebbe told them, he suggested to them that you should invest in Eretz Yisrael, in the Holy Land. And they said, we want to invest in France. And the Rebbe told them that if you lose money, at least you should lose money to a fellow Jew. Very interesting thing to say. So they listened to the Rebbe's advice, and they were very, very successful for about 10 years, and they lost a lot of money due to some non-scrupulous practices of the partners that they were dealing with. They lost a lot of money. And then understood what the Rebbe said, at least you should lose it to a fellow Jew. But later on, Baruch Hashem, they made their money back with interest as well. But it's a it's a unique thing that if you're able to make a partnership with another fellow Jew and to help your fellow Jew survive as well. Next Gemara. We're up to the next Amira who lived a long life. The students asked Reb Zera, in which merit have you lived a long life? Now, although previously we mentioned Reb Zera right at the top of this page, the very first words on this Amud, which Reb Zera says, the first line, that Reb Zera would not accept a gift when they would send him a portion of food from the house of the Nasi, he would not take it. To the top of sorry. He would not accept a gift of food from the house of the Nasi. So we said earlier that one who does not live a long life, where was it? Here is Reb Zera. When they would send him a gift from the house of a Nasi, he would not take it. When he would be invited, he would accept the invitation because he says they're only inviting me for their own honor, not for my honor. Reb Zera did not receive gifts, and it says, those that hate gifts shall live a long life. So why does Reb Zera not just answer, I did not accept gifts? Why does he have to say a different reason why he lived a long life? Amar Lehem, there's different answers, different reasons given for this, because after all, you see, Rebbe Zera did accept invitations to the house of the Nasi, and he would give a reason that they're inviting me for their own honor. So although he's not receiving a gift for the sake of a gift, but he still, in one way, was sort of receiving a gift. So he didn't want to say about himself, I never received a gift. So therefore, he gave a different reason why he lived a long life. He told them, I never became angry inside of my house, at the members of my house. Now, many people, they put up a very good front, at least when they're outside of the house. When they're at home, when they're behind closed doors, they act very differently. And Rebbe Zera says, I'm an open book. I have nothing to hide. Even at home, I never got upset. And for sure, definitely, in front of other people, I never got upset. And even when, halachically, it says that one can, instill fear of certain things at home, even then, when he was allowed to, when he should have at least put up a front of being upset, even then, he never got upset, even in his own house. It's halacha that one must speak in a very soft manner to the people in his house, because if a person is always angry or upset at home, and they're scared of getting him upset, it could be very possible that they'll eventually come to have a transgression of the Torah. For example, the Gemara brings an example of certain person who's very upset, very makbid in his house, I think should always have it was lechem mishnah. And one time he didn't have it, and he got very upset. So the next time they gave it to him, even though truma was not taken off from the challah, and he was eating tevel, which is chayiv misa b'dei shemayim. Because they didn't want him to get upset, they gave him something which had a different prohibition, a prohibition from the Torah. Halacha, we learned this previously, gets a Shulchan Aruch, that one, before Shabbos, you have to remind everyone in your family, check your pockets, turn on the fire. Should always be done, even though it's a very a pressure time. Halacha is that you have to do it always b'derech raka, in a very soft way. So he never got angry, even in his house. I never walked in front of someone who is greater than me, someone who has more specialty, is a bigger Torah scholar than me. Because seemingly, what's a big deal? It's always like that. The greatest person walks in front, and then the second one walks behind him. This is in Mesechta Derech Eretz. It says you always have to let the greater person go in front. Kohen Gadol walks in front. The king walks in front. So what's so unique that he would always let the person greater than him walk in front? So Rebbe Tzvi was saying that not just someone who is greater than me in Torah knowledge, but even someone who's older than me and is not greater than me in Torah knowledge, I never held myself to be greater, I never demanded the respect that I reserve. If someone is older than me, I always had him walk first, even if I was a greater Torah scholar. And because he was so humble, in that merit, he merited to live a long life. The lawyer Harti Nachas. I never thought words of Torah in a dirty alley, in a place which is dirty, where you're not allowed to think Torah. Again, what's so unique about this? It's halacha. You're not allowed to think of Torah in a non-clean place. In a place like a bathroom, a swimming pool, a latrine. You're not allowed to think Torah in any of these places. So what's so unique about Rebbe Tzvi saying, I never thought about Torah in a unclean alley? And bear in mind, there's no sewage back then. Many of the alleys were the places where people will go to do their needs. And the animals, all the pack animals would not go to the side to do their needs, and people would have to clean it. And they would take it off the roads and put it into the alleys. So the alleys were not a clean place. There's halacha, which says that if someone is in the bathroom, which of course you're not allowed to think words of Torah, but if they are thinking machshavei isser, things which are forbidden, one of the examples is immoral thoughts, so then they were allowed to speak about Torah, we're allowed to speak, and we're allowed to speak about Torah or think about Torah, even if they're in the bathroom, because in order to remove themselves from an isser, from a prohibition of the Torah, you're allowed to speak or think words of Torah. It says in Mesechta Zvachim that Rebbe Elazar, the son of Rebbe Shimon bar Yochai, he would go to the bathhouse, he would think words of Torah, because his mind was always there. So without even trying to think words of Torah, not even consciously, just subconsciously, would always come up to his mind. And he was someone which, by default, you'd be thinking or saying words of Torah. In addition, we also find in Mesechta Tainis, which we learned last year, that the certain Tanoim never walked 4 amos without tefillin or without words of Torah. That means that there is a place to be able to be allowed to walk in a dirty alley or in a non-clean place with words of Torah. So for all of these reasons, where there's someone on the caliber of Zera will be allowed to think words of Torah, he never had never had the opportunity in order to, he never thought words of Torah. He always was controlling his thoughts when he was in a non-clean place. And even a Torah scholar who by default is always thinking about words of Torah, he was able to always control himself and to not think words of Torah either. Next, that's the next reason why he lived a long life is I did not walk 4 amas, 6 feet, without Torah, without saying words of Torah, and without wearing tefillin. Obviously by day, not by night. So even if you happen to walk in a dirty alley, because you see he says, I never thought of Torah there. He was wearing tefillin over there. Perhaps he covered it in a place where it had to be covered. So he always walked around with tefillin and words of Torah. And I never slept in the shul at all, in the house of study at all. In the shul, for sure, it's a place of davening. And even in the Beis Medrash, a house of learning, house of study, where you're allowed to sleep derech arai, temporary, a short sleep, not a full sleep, but a short nap you could do, because the Torah scholars would be there day and night, so they're allowed to sleep a short nap. I never slept at all in the Beis Medrash, because when you're sleeping, you're not in control of certain parts of your body and certain faculties. The Gemara Mesechta Sanhedrin says that anybody who sleeps in a Beis Medrash forgets all their Torah learning. If they sleep in a full sleep, but if he's sleeping just a nap, that's not a problem. He was careful never to sleep in a Beis Medrash at all. And I never called my friend by his nickname. We had this earlier. What it means, a nickname. And some say I did not call him with any nickname at all, even if it's not a negative nickname, even if it's a nickname which people just call him, but it's not his actual name, he would never call anybody by any title but their actual legal, you could say their Hebrew, their Jewish name. Now, most people are not like this, right? They call people with names, with nicknames. At least the vast majority are positive names. But sometimes, this as one of the, we learned before that one of the Yardei Gehinnom, people who give other people derogatory nicknames are from those who receive Gehinnom. So some say he would not say anybody with a nickname, even if everybody used it. And some say he would not use a nickname, even if it was a positive name. And we skip one. And I never rejoice when my friend had a hard time. What's so unique? Didn't just say we know in full if you have an enemy who is having a downfall, you cannot rejoice about it, that he's having a downfall. So he says that what the Maharsha explains is that there's different times, that a person could be happy when their friend has a downfall. If you don't like the person and then he has a downfall, you're happy about it. So that's definitely usher forbidden. He's your enemy. But if he's not your enemy, somebody fell down, you're not allowed to be happy about it. For example, if somebody they needed cash right away, so therefore they sell one of their possessions for a cheap price because they need the money right away. So that person received the money that they needed right away, and they're happy they received the money, and you're happy you bought the item for a sale. But if you're happy about it, that's what they're saying. He was not happy about that either, because at the end of the day, the person did not get the fair market value of what he could have received for it if he wasn't in such a rush to sell his property. Mesechta Brachos, it brings from Rebbe that he was that whenever I won a debate in the Beis Medrash, a debate in halacha, who the halacha should be like, I was never happy if when I won and my friend lost. I was never joyous about that. So even in something of halacha where it's natural and a person, works and accomplishes, they should be happy about it. And he didn't make a mistake like his friend, or I saved my friend from doing a mistake. But nevertheless, Reb Zera was working on himself so much that he made it part of him that he was never happy whenever his friend was not happy as well. Reb Itzkol he was a very, I think Talmud of the Chayz of Lublin. He was actually very wealthy before he became a chassid. So Reb Itzkol he says that I was never able, this Reb Zera was saying, I was never able to rejoice knowing that someone else is in pain. If someone else was in pain, I was never able to totally be happy. Doesn't mean he was happy when his friend had a hard time. It means that he had such Amas Yisrael that he took to heart whatever anyone else did. The story of, I think it was Yisrael Salan, not Yisrael Salan, they lived in Yerushalayim, one of the early Rabbanim. Who lived in Yerushalayim. And one time he was coming home, and maybe Yosef Chaim Zonnefeld, he was coming to his house. And as he's coming to his house, he had a son, I'm not sure what his name was. Let's say it was Shimon. They said, Shimon fell and broke his arm. Shimon fell and broke his arm. And he sees the kids running around saying, Shimon fell and broke his arm. He got so worried. Oy vey, what happened to my son Shimon? And he started rushing home. He came to his house and he sees his son Shimon, and his son is running around. He's totally fine. He says, what happened? He says, another neighbor whose son was Shimon, he fell and broke his arm. He says, oh, phew, Baruch Hashem. Then he thought to himself, wait a second. Something must be wrong with me. If I don't take to heart my friend's son fell and broke his arm, I don't take it to heart the same way like my own son, that means something lacking as well. So this is this is what Rebbe Zera was saying, that the idea of Ahavas Yisrael was so strong by him that he took to heart whatever any fellow Jew was in pain, it really bothered him. He was really, really very much in pain as well. We'll do some of the halacha. You're not allowed to think words of Torah if you're in a non-clean place. And the Friedrich Rebbe was arrested in 1927, the longest arrest when he was sentenced to death. And the Friedrich Rebbe, coming in, made a very strong the determination that he's not going to take into account at all any of his interrogators' demands and not be scared of them. And at one point, when they're trying to interrogate the Friedrich Rebbe, and they weren't getting where they wanted, and they threatened him, and they weren't getting any headway with the Friedrich Rebbe, so one of them said, "Do you know where you are?" Friedrich Rebbe said, "Yes." This is a Jewish member of the Sexia, the NKVD. And he says, I'm in a place that does not need a mezuzah. There are some places like a bathroom or a swimming pool does not need a mezuzah because it's not a pure place. And this is a place that does not need a mezuzah either. Someone goes to the bathroom, he cannot think words of Torah in the bathroom. But if he's thinking things which are the opposite of mitzvahs, then he is allowed to think even words of Torah, even to remove them from there. So you can think of other things, how humble a person is. One day a person will, be under the dust, like a place of worms and a place of filth one day, or to think about his expenses at home. On Shabbos, he shouldn't think about expenses. It says in Shulchan Aruch, he should think about pictures, about scenery. A Torah scholar should not go to such a place if he could help it, because Torah scholars will always be thinking about words of Torah. The Arizal actually has a skula, as tefillah, to say how one should not bring themselves to think words of Torah in a bathroom. If somebody has that issue that they go to a bathroom and they're always constantly stuck getting thinking words of Torah, I could guide you to the Rizal's tefillah, what he could say before going into the bathroom. In a dressing room where some people are dressed and some people are not dressed, there you are allowed to think words of Torah. So in a place like a mikveh here in Pittsburgh, where it's all one room, you would not be allowed. But if the dressing room is a different room, and the mikveh and the showers, you would be allowed to think words of Torah over there. Now, tefillin have to be put on only by the day, and you always have to think about the tefillin. And you're not allowed to put on tefillin at night. And very pious, unique people wear tefillin the entire time. And those who wear tefillin the entire time should be careful to be worthy of people who wear tefillin the entire day, not to speak needless words in tefillin, have conversations in tefillin. And it's a great thing. Like Rebbe Tzvi always walked with tefillin. You're not allowed to sleep in a shul at all, even a small nap. And in Beis Medrash, you are allowed to sleep a short nap. We'll get to all that Teirin. How do people? Sometimes you see people could sleep or could eat or drink. You're not allowed to sleep in a Beis Medrash when you learn, and it says one who does forgets their learning, the Torah learning that they had, leaves if it's a temporary learning. You're not allowed to call somebody with a nickname. If it's a nickname which everybody uses, then it's not such a problem to use that nickname if it's common and it's not anything derogatory. Midas as a person could always call somebody with their real name. It says that Torah ma'irich yamim, Torah ma'reches yamim shadam. Torah lengthens the life of a person, and therefore a person always learns, will live a long life. We see about David HaMelech, the angel of death was not able to touch him as long as he was learning Torah. Torah brings kedusha, holiness, to the world, special power that it has, special, and therefore you're not allowed to teach Torah to someone who's not Jewish, because you're bringing the special kedusha, the holiness of Torah, bringing it to someone who's not Jewish. They can only learn the halachas that they have for themselves. And Chassidus, you're bringing chayas to sitra achra. A person teaches Torah to someone who's non-Jewish or learns Torah in a place which is not fitting to learn Torah, that means it's a place of klipa, that could, God forbid, remove the arichas yamim, the length of days that the Torah gives to the person. Therefore, a person should always learn Torah only in a place where you're allowed to learn Torah. So the reward is that you live a long life. And it's not just a Ma'amar Chazal. Torah says this. It says, "But davar hazeh, if I gave you mitzvahs to learn, and in this merit, tarichu yamim, you will live a long life." 1149. How do people act in a shul? Many times, someone falls asleep in shul during a speech or during the sermon. Again, if it's usually not a shinas kavas, usually not a set sleep, not taking a nap or taking out a pillow and laying down. And if the base knesses, if the shul is also a base medrash, a house of study, so then there is a sort of leniency in that regard. Not advocating for sleeping during a sermon, but there's more leniency with that. But nowadays, it's a very common thing. It started with mainly the Hasidic movement, where they have what's called a shtibel or klois. We're Hasidim, where after davening, you might take out a little bit of Chaim and a little bit of Mazonos, say Chaim to someone, have a Fabring in there. And people do different things in the shul, which says you shouldn't be doing. So the Divrei Chaim of Tzanz, he writes, the source for the heter, for the permission to do such a thing. Because if, to begin with, the shul was set aside in such a manner that it was never set aside as a house of learning, or never set aside as a shul of davening, but rather it's a house given to the Torah scholars, to the Chassidim. And they could also daven in that house if they want. They could also learn in that house if they want. But it never quite, to begin with, became a shul. That's why it's called the shtibel. What does a shtibel mean? Shtibel means a house, right? So a small house. The idea that a shul should not just be a place to visit, but the shul should be a place where you live and a place where you feel comfortable. Taking down the divide between your house and the shul. Your house should be holy like a shul, but the shul should also be comfortable in it to be like a house. So it was never to begin with set aside as a shul or a beis medrash. And though it's never called a shul. And he says this must be the reason for it. And the idea that in a shul, everyone gets together to encourage the other one. And although Chaim was not a Chabad Chassid, his sons, but he says, when you go by get together and you say L'chaim together, and when you say L'chaim, it takes away the boundaries and people feel close to each other, and people could encourage each other to help each other. Now, it's brought in the Gemara Mesechta Shabbos that a Am Haaretz, a ignorant person who calls a Beis Knesset a shul, he calls it a Beis Am, the house of the people. So then, Mesim, they pass away young. So over here, they never call the shul a shul, and then calling it a shtibel. To begin with, it's called a shtibel. And if the purpose is to encourage people to get closer to Yiddishkeit, then it's a good thing. The purpose is to do something else, then it's obviously not a good thing. There's a big back and forth. What's holier? The Beis Knesset, beis medrash. We've had this on the last plot. But a shtibel, according to the words of Divrei Chaim, never does not have the kedusha, the holiness, not of a beis medrash, not of a beis Knesset. And so you have, it says that a person is best to daven in a makom kadosh, in a holy place. Seemingly, you don't even have this greatness in a shtibel, if you never had the holiness of the shul. So you don't necessarily always have that idea, but you do have many other ideas that it's a house, it's a place where you could be together with Haverim, with your friends, and it says a person should learn Torah in a place where you want to learn Torah, means with your friends. And it's interesting, when the Rebbe would refer to 770, he would call it a beis Torah, beis tefillah, beis ma'asim tovim, a house of Torah, where you learn Torah and teach Torah, a house of tefillah, house of davening, where you daven, and a beis ma'asim tovim, meaning that the shul to begin with was already set aside to be such a place where it should be a beis ma'asim tovim, a house of chesed. And a house of chesed, the Rebbe gave out, of course, the tzedakah, millions of, or hundreds of thousands, and the amount of tzedakah and chesed, and mitzvahs that are done there as well. So this also has the advantage that you, even if it is considered to be a shul, and a holy shul at that, still has the other advantage of that you could use it for other things we set aside with. We're holding here in the Mishnah. We'll have a few, just to conclude with, today is a very special day. It's called Yud Beis Sivan, 12th of Sivan. And it's the last day of, many people call it vacation. Last day that you don't have to say Tachnun. Because in the times of the Beis HaMikdash, many Jews would come to the Beis HaMikdash for Shavuos, and there wasn't enough time to bring all the karbanos, all the sacrifices. Everyone had to bring karban chagiga, karban oilos re'iyah, a special karban for coming to the Beis HaMikdash, and it would go for 7 days, just like Sukkot and Pesach, where it was a 7-day holiday. And the last day was Yud Beis Sivan, the 12th of Sivan, and that is called the Mei Tashlumin, the days of completion of the Shavuos. Now, in the year 1895, the Frierdiker Rebbe was one time going on a stroll with his father, the Rebbe Hershel, on the day of Yud Beis Sivan. And the Rebbe Hershel spoke about the importance and the greatness of Yud Beis Sivan. And he says it's the seventh day of Shavuos, similar to the Hoshana Rabbah, which is the seventh day of Sukkot, and the seventh, and Shliach Pesach, the seventh day of Pesach. The Rebbe asked a question on this, what the Rebbe Rashab said. How can you compare the Yud Beis Sivan, the seventh day of Shavuos, to Hoshana Rabbah? Hoshana Rabbah is the end of the judgment of Rosh Hashanah. We say many Hashainas on that day. Shliach Pesach, it's a Yom Tiv, can't do Melacha. Shliach Pesach is Kriyas Yamsuf, the splitting of the sea. Yud Beis Sivan is a regular weekday. And Rebbe Rashab compares it, must be some type of specialty. And the Rebbe brings it down to, it's called Kol Ashrin Chavivin. All the seventh one are the most beloved ones, most special. Moshe Rabbeinu was beloved, was special because he was the seventh one from Avram Avinu. So on the seventh day of every Yom Tiv shines, the Yom Tiv comes its zenith, its completion, its greatness, in the greatest way. And that's why the seventh day of Pesach is such a greater revelation than the first day of Pesach. And Hoshana Rabbah culminates entire Hoshana, Yom Kippur, and Sukkot, last day of that Yom Tiv. And the same thing applies, the Rebbe explains, also on the 12th of Sivan. There were several times the Rebbe had Farbrengens for the Yud Beis Sivan, for the 12th of Sivan. Famous Farbrengen in 1982, Dashan Membeis, was one of the more famous ones. The Rebbe spoke very passionately about certain subjects. In the year 1991, the Rebbe made a surprise Farbrengen on Yud Beis Sivan, Shabbos Parshas Naseh, 11th of Sivan going into the 12th of Sivan. Right before Mincha, no one was expecting a Farbrengen. It was already Farbrengen earlier that Shabbos, and it was a very unique Farbrengen. The Rebbe washed, which he didn't usually do by Farbrengens, and the Rebbe said, this is the completion of Shavuos. We're going to wash by this completion of Shavuos. What's unique about Yud Beis Sivan, in 1961, the Rebbe wrote a letter explaining what is Yud Beis Sivan, that you're taking a weekday, a day which by itself, we go to work and we do everything else we do on that weekday, and you're connecting it and completing it to the giving of the Torah with the sanctity of Shavuos. Even in Chutz La'aretz, outside Eretz Yisrael, and even nowadays when we don't bring Karbanos in the Beis HaMikdash, still we're connected, we're coming from the energy of Shavuos. And from here, a person could take a lesson that in every single thing a person does, day to day, mundane work, should always use it and to sanctify it, bring the Kedusha and holiness of the Matan Torah. So Shekoyach, thank you everybody for joining. Thank you.